How's it going, everyone? I hope you all are having a wonderful day. Before I get into the video, I just wanted to let you guys know that I've recently changed my YouTube channel name from I'm a Mess to A Mess Anime. I'm still a mess, it's just the channel name is different. Okay, now to the actual topic of the video. Some of you guys probably guessed from the title, but this video is going to be about the idea or concept of a plant Zoan devil fruit. This video was inspired by Tekken 101's video. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, I will link his video in the description down below. I highly recommend you go and check it out. It was an awesome video, and Tekken is an awesome dude, and he has such a colorful personality. Anyway, in his video, he talked about Admiral Rokugyu, or Green Bull, and how his devil fruit ability is potentially some type of plant-based fruit. The community came up with a theory because he has been fasting for a year and we see him relaxing in the sun. So people came up with a theory that since his color is green, his ability has to be plant-based. And since he doesn't eat, he probably gets nutrients through photosynthesis, thus making his body similar to that of a plant, so either a Logia or a Zoan. He also goes into how devil fruits came to be. Like, they have been around since the beginning of time. But there is a laundry fruit, and the concept of laundry hasn't been around since the beginning of time. Same thing with weaponry. So the devil fruit came into existence at the same time as the concept it is based on. So since plants have been around since the beginning, a plant-based devil fruit should exist. And since it's an element, it can be a Logia. There's no doubt about that. The question is, how would a plant Zoan work? For starters, let's look at what classifies a devil fruit as a Zoan. The main factor for a species to have a Zoan devil fruit is that they need to be from the Animalia kingdom. Animalia being animals and fauna, while plants are from Plantae kingdom, which are the flora of the world. Now, the key difference between the two is that fauna are mobile, and they have to go out to acquire food, while flora are immobile. They can chemically produce their own food. As you know, plants do this through the process of photosynthesis by taking in sunlight and carbon dioxide and turning it into nutrients, then producing oxygen as a waste. So, since they are not classified as Animalia, you would think that plants would be disqualified as a possible Zoan, right? Here's the thing, we haven't seen all types of animals in a Zoan fruit. What I mean is, insects have yet to be featured. I know what you guys are thinking. We have seen a few spider Zoans displayed throughout the series, but after doing a little research, it turns out that spiders are not insects, but they are classified as arachnida. Yeah, I always thought that arachnid was their species name and their classification was insect or insecta. Turns out I completely missed the mark with that one. Just to quickly explain what this means, scientists use 7 major groups to distinguish the different animals around the world. From the vaguest group to the most specific group, we have kingdom, division, class, order, family, genus, and finally species. Spiders and insects are of the same division, being the arthropoda, which have exoskeletons and joint legs, but they are of different classes. Spiders are arachnids and other insects are insecta. So as I was saying, due to spiders being arachnids and not insects, we have yet to see an insect-based Zoan in the series. So if we have not seen an insect-based Zoan, what else could we have not seen? Which is why I think the concept of a Zoan isn't only tying down to the Animalia kingdom. It could also spread to the Plantae kingdom. It's just that Oda has yet to reveal it because he doesn't want to reveal something that could contradict a popular belief within the world of One Piece yet. Because with everything going on right now, there are other stuff that Oda is revealing, like how Shanks got the Gum Gum fruit. Also, you have to remember that devil fruits are still relatively vague in how they work. Despite being revealed in the first episode and chapter of the series, we still know only the surface level information. Like the concept of the awakened devil fruit. It was touched upon in Impel Down and recently elaborated in Dressrosa. So Oda could be keeping something else hidden up his sleeve. We just don't know what it is yet. So, how would this ability work? For starters, let's look at the different types of plants. We all know the basics like grass, flowers, trees, vines, etc. But how would they work? Would it be as simple as turning into a giant form of the plant and attack with vines, roots, or branches? Or could it be like Karasu's devil fruit, where you would be able to turn into a group of plants like how he can turn into a murder of crows? Also, for those of you who weren't aware, a group of crows is called a murder. If you don't believe me, look it up. If that isn't the creepiest fun fact you've ever heard, then I don't want to know what is. So, this might happen, but I feel like Oda will go bigger than a group of plants. So what would he choose to do instead? Well, first we have to look at certain aspects of animals to see which plant can closely mimic it. Now, animals first off are mobile, have intelligence, and are able to adapt to new environments. Plants have very similar abilities, just not to the extent as animals. So there was this one time I went hiking in Sequoia National Park and saw the sequoia tree split in two, and I asked the people around me what type of tree splits itself halfway up its trunk like that. One of the park rangers overheard me ask this and told us that the tree doesn't naturally split itself. It happens because a lightning bolt struck it ages ago, causing it to split, but since its roots were intact, it continued to grow. So the tree adapted to the injury and grew 2 separate tree trunks. It adapted to the injury and evolved into a split tree. Damn, the way I said that, I made it sound like it was a Pokemon. So anyways, plants have ways that they adapt and work around the environment they are in. Like vines wrap themselves around tree trunks and cages in order to provide themselves adequate support to grow grapes and not topple over from the extra weight that the grapes add to it. All of this information was leading up to this point, so we know plants can adapt and grow in a certain way to give them the best chance to survive and thrive. So what if I added on top of that a plant that can actually move and react to external stimulus? I'm sure you all have thought of it, but there are carnivorous plants in the world. For those of you new to this concept, there are plants that actually eat insects. The most notable one being the Venus flytrap. The Venus flytrap is a plant that has mouth-shaped leaves. And on the inside of the mouth, leaf thing, are little hairs that when an insect touches them, the leaves close and digest the insect. There are other types of carnivorous plants, like the monkey cup for instance. The monkey cup is a cup-shaped plant hanging from a vine that has water inside of it, and typically monkeys will come and drink from the cup, hence the name monkey cup. Now this plant releases a unique pheromone that makes certain insects like ants for example believe that the cup is their nest. So when the ant climbs the cup, it reaches the mouth of it, which is surrounded by this ring. The ring is unstickable so the ant can't get a grip on it, so it will slip and fall inside. It will then sink to the bottom of the cup where it gets digested. Fun fact about the monkey cup, there is this species of spiders that will actually make its home inside of the cup because it knows that the cup will draw in its prey for it. And it's a permanent residence because the spider can't get out because the ring is unscalable. So when an insect falls in, it gets caught in the spider's web. The spider will then drink its blood and discard the corpse at the bottom of the cup, where again it will get digested. I just thought that was a really cool thing. The spider literally traps itself in an eternal, inescapable prison just so it doesn't have to work for its meal anymore. Its food now just comes to it. Unlike the Venus flytrap, the monkey cup doesn't move. It's immobile. Instead, it manipulates the creatures around it and gets them to come to it. Both of these don't really have complex movement. It's pretty straightforward. However, there is another carnivorous plant that will move in accordance with its prey. The sundew is a tentacle monster in plant form. No, really. The sundew has over 200 different species, but they all seem to have one thing in common. They have these red vine things sticking out of them. The vines have little suction pods at the end of them, and when an insect gets near it, the suction pods attach to them. Then they quickly swarm the prey and wrap themselves around it, suffocate it, and digest it. Freaky stuff, right? Don't worry, I'm not done yet. I have about 2 more plants I want to talk about for this segment of the video. One being the bladderwort, which has these bubble-like things coming out of its stems. It lives in open waters, and when an insect like an aquatic worm or a water flea touches the hair near the sac, it will literally open and slurp the water around it, capturing the insect and digesting it in the sac. Now, these sacs are very small, so it only works on tiny insects. But still, this plant has the ability to suck. Insects, people. Come on, you knew where I was going with this. Lastly, I wanted to bring up the lobster pot. It's a plant that is shaped like a lobster pot trap fishermen use. It has red Y-shaped leaves. Whenever an insect enters the leaf, they get ensnared by pointy hairs that force the insect down the vine where it gets digested. So this is a plant that has the capability to swallow insects. Okay, we are still talking about insects, people. Okay, so knowing this, how would these work in a zone fruit? Most likely the hybrid form would consist of the carnivorous leaves as the arms, while the legs will remain human to retain mobility. As for the monkey cup, it will release a hormone causing its opponent to think they are heading to what they believe is their home. Like for the straw hats, it would be the sunny or maybe the crew itself. Then they get caught in the cup like it's a net and they slowly get digested. Then with the Venus flytrap, maybe the zone user can turn himself into a giant version of the plant, which by the way has multiple leaves. Don't think it's only one leaf that you would have to worry about. So the user would grow roots and embed them deep in the ground and solidify himself in a defensive position and attack with the chomping leaves, or maybe hide some of them under the ground and wait for someone to trigger them like a trap. The lobster pot and bladderwort could still work, but they would be more for like a stealth trap instead of a frontal assault. Like the bladderwort will have a strong suction power and trap people in a bubble, while the lobster pot looks like a giant crab with its leaves acting as the claws. Then comes the sundew. The sundew zone will allow the user to grow red suction cup tip vines and attack with them. So it will pretty much work like Hamadori's hair back in Nenny's lobby. Now this covers the real life plants that I wanted to discuss. But who said the discussion was going to end with real plants? The first thing I considered when I heard of the idea of a plant-based zone was a mythical variant of it. I mean, we got a mythical fish fruit, why wouldn't we get a mythical plant then? In a lot of mythologies and religious faiths, trees play a significant role. I know I just said I was done talking about real life plants, but there's this IRL tree that holds some significance in religion that I wanted to talk about. There is this tree in Bahrain. Bahrain is a country in the Middle East, and it has a desert where a single tree sits in the middle of that desert. The tree is alive and healthy despite Bahrain getting very little rain. There are a lot of theories ranging from 50-meter deep roots that have found an underground waterway to the tree has adapted to absorb the little moisture from the dirt around it. The theory I wanted to touch upon today is that some people believe this tree was once located in the Garden of Eden, and it's a tree of life that can generate its own water to survive, which could work if this was Rikugyu's fruit. It would explain how he could fast for a whole year. He simply just generates his own water to survive, and possibly use roots to gain nutrients from the soil. So this tree could be used as inspiration for a tree of life fruit. Speaking of the tree of life, there are other trees that use that name, like the Kabbalah tree of life. I ended up doing a little research on this for another video that's still in the works, so you'll have to wait for another day to see it. Now, the Kabbalah tree of life is more of a concept rather than a physical tree, but that doesn't mean it can't be used as inspiration for a tree of life fruit. So the Kabbalah tree of life is depicted as 10 spheres connected by 22 lines, and they are arranged into 3 columns. The spheres represent existence, God, and the human psyche, while the lines represent the requirements to get to the next sphere, and then the columns are symbolized as pillars which represent the different kinds of values. So the user would be able to turn parts of his body into spheres, and sort of act similarly to Sengoku's Buddha zone. A Buddha is someone who has achieved enlightenment, and Kabbalah is a tree of enlightenment. You can see where there is a connection. So in theory, it can work. Also, let's not forget, trees play a significant part in One Piece as well. There is the tree of Adam and the tree of Eve. Adam providing the strongest wood in the world, while Eve provides sunlight to Fishman Island. Since these two exist in the world, would it be so far-fetched for them to have double fruit abilities modeled after them? Even an artificial form is possible due to the existence of Vegapunk. He could take the tree's lineage factor and create a sunlight tree zone after Eve, or a hardwood tree after Adam. And honestly, a plant zone doesn't even need to be a plant at all. You see, Sengoku's human fruit is a golden Buddha, so it's more of a statue than an actual human. It is a mythical variant, so it is an over-exaggeration of how a Buddha would actually look like. So imagine a mythical plant that was just like that. So instead of it being a physical plant, maybe it could be a plant spirit like a dryad, for example. If you guys have seen That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, then you would know that a dryad is a nature spirit who dwells in trees and take on the form of beautiful women. When I was researching this and saw dryads were only women, I thought to myself, imagine if Rikugyu had the mythical dryad fruit, and when he said he will break his fast if a beautiful woman feeds him, I just pictured him being like, I'm going to be that beautiful woman myself, and transformed into his dryad form and started feeding himself. But it wasn't the same, and that's why he started his long fast, because no woman was more beautiful than himself. So he can't eat food anymore because all women are not as beautiful as him, and he refuses to feed himself. So he can't accept the fact that his female form is more attractive than an actual woman. Okay, back to the actual topic here. We have seen various animal spirits like the phoenix and the nine-tailed fox. So why can't a plant spirit work too? And these are just like the mystical stuff in mythology. What about some mystic plants in pop culture? Like maybe Flowey from Undertale. He is a reincarnation of a monster prince, but he's still a plant. And he has some insane abilities that Oda can reference. Like the way he could travel by sprouting and returning to the earth to get from one point to the other. There are even some mystic trees in anime. Some used the tree Yggdrasil and made it into a dragon tree. It is a mythological tree that houses some insane power like housing the 9 realms. So it's possible to make a plant fruit that can change the environment around it. Honestly, that doesn't even need to be an Yggdrasil zone. Another mystic creature or plant can work. Honestly, now that I think about it, a sphere that can distort reality sounds a lot like the Yapi Yapi no Mi. Whatever. Some other examples from anime would include the Tree of Genesis and Exodus from Zetsuen no Tempest, where the Tree of Genesis grants magical powers to its servants and seeks to destroy the world, while the Tree of Exodus was summoned to stop it. The Tree of Genesis grants magicians the ability to use magic by sacrificing an item. In other words, creating something by sacrificing another thing like Full Metal Alchemist's law of equivalent exchange. While the Tree of Exodus gives its magician the power to erase things or even create magical weapons without the need to sacrifice something else. So in terms of the One Piece world, it could work as a tree fruit that can create something in exchange for something else, or one that can destroy anything. These sound stupidly broken, so I doubt this is how Oda will spin it. Oda is a brilliant writer. If he was going to make a mythical plant fruit, he will spin it in a way that will make more sense than my rambling. The concept is there, it can work. It's just how it will work is the question. We will just need to wait and see if any of the things I brought up today turn out to be true. And that's going to be it for this one, folks. I would like to thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Let me know what you think of a plant-based Zoan fruit, and do you think it could work? Before I go, I would like to give another shout out to Tagging 101 for inspiring this video. His video is linked down below if you want to check it out. And with that, I will see you all in the next one, and remember to keep having fun. See ya!